welcome back to the DLLS Wings podcast. I am your host, Arike. I'm joined by Bobby Corella. I'm so excited. Let's celebrate the Glendaway, as I just said over on Twitter. The Dallas Wings have won the number one pick in the WNBA Draft for the second year in a row. And Bobby and I are here to celebrate and give our live reactions. Bobby, really quick. We have yet to say, I just joked about this with you before the show, but we've yet to even say Jose Fernandez's name on this show. A lot going on in Wings land, but today, obviously, the number one pick. What's your quick takeaway from the number one pick?
Well, Erica, the more things change, the more they stay the same. It's number one 2 years in a row for the Wings. Hopefully, they are never in a position where they're standing at that podium again, okay? Hopefully, this is the last time we ever celebrate the lottery. But not only do the Wings gain, but also the Lynx lose, and that's huge for the rest of the league. But, yeah, I mean, this is just – it's a huge day for the Wings. Whether they've made their mind up on who they're going to pick yet or not, it is so much better to be in the number one spot than it is number two and have to rely on some other team to make a mistake or whatever. They control the destiny. They have all the cards, and they can do whatever they want, and that is a beautiful, beautiful place to be in.
It's a great spot to be in. And to your point, like, you don't want to have to wait to see, oh, is the number one team going to take the player that they want or so on and so forth. So great place for the Wings to be in. A lot of conversation to be had about the fact that there is not right now, today, as of November 23rd, 2025, a consensus overall number one pick. And I think that's like a really interesting spot to be in, especially if you look at the last couple of years of the draft and how it's all played out. Everyone knew exactly who was going number one, and now it's kind of this big giant question mark. And I think it's kind of a spot of advantage for the Wings, to be very honest with you. They get to take who they need, and they get first choice of some really top-notch candidates. And I want to talk about Awa Fam off rip here, because this is Wings Fam, okay? We call it the Wings Fam for a reason, and I want to talk about Awa Fam. Awa is, listen, you guys know I covered the Phoenix Mercury. Unfortunately, in the finals, you know, there were two very mobile bigs in that WNBA finals, and one team may have gotten swept, but there were still two very mobile bigs. And so, all that to be said, there's something to be said about a winning mobile big, and that is exactly what Awa Fam is. At 6'4", she is versatile. She can play anywhere on the floor, and she's fast. She's very good on her feet. Fantastic footwork, especially when you consider the fact that she is only 19 years old, and she has made it very clear that it is her goal to play in the WNBA in 2026. I think that's a very interesting spot, like, note about it too, because there aren't that many overseas players that make it their number one priority to come into the States and play for arguably a little less money than they might make in Europe playing the same game. And so she made it her priority. I think she's a top-notch candidate. Will she be the number one pick? Your guess is as good as mine. But with Jose Fernandez in the head coaching spot here in Dallas now, also known as the foreign merchant, I think we would be, really silly gooses to not just think that that's probably a pretty good guess. And, I see my good pal, Classic Stang Lover, is in the chat, leaving super chats galore regarding just that. Awa Fam, we're number one, he says. And then he also says, Awa, 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 Awa. I would like to be saying that all year long, I'm not going to lie. So, but yeah, Classic Stang Lover is also right. I'm not sure if Elijah's computer is capable of even doing that today, but if Elijah, if you are able to put a poll in the chat, do put a poll in the chat. AZ or Awa, I would love to know the chat's thoughts. But what are
just
your
drop
thoughts?
a comment. Who do you want? Awa, AZ, or someone else? I mean, it could be Lauren Betts, but that's the thing, I think. And also shout out TO for the 5 gifties in the chat, making 5 viewers into supporters. Shout out to TO as always for all of your generosity and support for the channel, and to Classic Stang Lover, and to everyone else that's watching. We know the Cowboys are making a comeback right now. All right, we know the Rangers just made a trade. We know there's a lot going on in DFW sports, but this is a big day for the Wings. This is a big day for the Wings. And about Awa, we're starting to see more and more mocks rank her higher, rank her as high as 1. It was kind of only like the ball knowers that knew about her earlier in the season. But now the word is getting out, and, through pre-draft process, workouts, obviously the rest of the NCAA season and all that stuff that's going to happen throughout the fall, and all of winter, and really into spring. I mean, the draft is so far away. A lot can change between now and then. Players can get better. Players can get worse. Question marks could arise. Players could get hurt, knock on wood, that nobody does. But that's why it's good to be number one, because if anyone rises a lot, if anyone separates themselves from the pack, let's say it's Awa, then the Wings could say, all right, well, we really like this player. We're just going to draft this player. Or the Wings could say, we really like this player. If you want her, though, you can, ask us what it'll cost. It's way better to have that leverage. And, I think as far as Awa's fit on the team, I mean, we'll see. I think the Wings last year, they had a pretty productive front court. They had a lot of forwards and even bigs. Once they got Lee in here that can shoot, Luisa Gazasoder, same thing. Like they were able to spread the floor, and that I think is what you want with Paige, is to give her as much room to operate as possible, and same for Arike as well. But one thing that they lack, despite having that dynamic play at both power forward and center for most of the season, is speed, team speed. They were just kind of slow. Luisa was digging in on defense, but how many times whenever she would switch onto a guard would it be a mismatch, in the opponent's favor? And Lee, Lee does her best, but she just doesn't have that top end athleticism and top end foot speed. And if I was able to come in and give them a different sort of look, whether it's at 4 or 5, then that's great. But I think, and this is something that I think is true across all sports, but basketball I think especially so, because you only have 5 players on the floor, so star power matters a lot. But the Wings have their star, right? You got Paige. So if any of these players fits really well with Paige, that could be good. But you don't necessarily want to draft just for fit. Like, who's the best player? Look at this entire class and say, who is the best player? And if for some reason you identify a player that overlaps too much with Paige, or that their games just are like this, then okay, maybe you reconsider. But odds are that means another team in the draft thinks that is also the best player, and so then you can just make the trade. I don't know if I'm the Wings, if I'm looking to draft solely for need or solely for fit. Like, I'm looking for who the best player is, and hopefully, I think Paige is a good enough and versatile enough player, and unselfish enough too, to make it work with no matter who they draft.
Well, and I'm gonna defend every AZ lover really quick. I wanna play both sides of this real quick because
There's a legit case to take AZ, by the way.
Right.
Legit
And
case.
AZ is playing her rear end off right now on an absolutely stacked UConn team. You could argue that this UConn team is better than last year's UConn team. And that is most certainly saying something, considering everyone that is watching the show is most certainly familiar with Paige Bueckers.
Yeah.
And so AZ fam shooting, or AZ FUD, my goodness, shooting over 50% from 3, is getting to her spots in a much more efficient way than we've seen her do in the past, and has improved on her defense in droves. She definitely bulked up a lot over the summer, put on some muscle mass to be able to kind of defend that the other team's best player, and she does it well. You saw it versus Michigan. You will continue to see it the rest of the season as they play, move into Big East play and all of that. But I think, to Bobby's point, like, you're not going to see anyone really separate themselves until it comes time for March. College draft boards don't. Whenever everyone that is watching our show is looking at these draft boards and you're finding yourself getting worked up, you're getting your blood pressure is going up, just remember that they are exclusively put out to rage bait you. And so, if you want AZ, your chances are as good as anyone else's who wants Awa. So just hope for that classic AZ FUD performance in March, and I think that that will be the separator. So, to Bobby's point, you got to let the NCAA season play out for what it is. It's going to be a long season. I think Flage Johnson is going to like a word with those top 3 picks. And that's just my opinion. Don't come for me. Don't yell at me. But I think Flage Johnson is someone that is going to continue to crawl up in the conversation. And I texted Ali before the show, but if she falls to the point where she's a Washington Mystic, I'm going to be sick to my stomach. That is going to be a super team, man. And so, you just have to hope that it's tough, because while there is no consensus number 1 pick, that doesn't make this any less of a stacked draft than the past 3 to 4 years. So it's just a ton of talent to be selected from, and the Wings are obviously in a fantastic spot with the number 1 pick and get their pick of the litter.
Yeah, who do you think, so Minnesota's sitting at number 2. Now, they can just kind of do whatever they want. They can just draft a great player and say, all right, cool. Or they could say, you know what? There's one player we like more than the rest. Hey, Dallas, we'll give you number 2 and a player to move up to number 1. Or the Lynx could say, man, there's a lot of really good players in this draft, but we just want vets because we want to win right now. We feel good about this thing. Like, let's go. And then they could offer up one of those, that pick for a vet from another team. And the same could be said for the Mystics. Why do the Mystics need another young player? Like, I feel like there could be a lot of activity beneath the Wings at number one. And that's where it's really interesting, because any of those teams that could either move out of their pick completely, or that are like, hey, we actually want to move up to number one. We want Awa, or we want AZ, or we really love Lauren Betts, or whatever. Then they could come calling. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if teams are already calling the Wings right now saying, hey, what do you think? What do you think about this? I think there's a great case to be made for AZ. I mean, she's shooting, what Shanae on the broadcast said, she's over 50% on 7 threes a game. Like, that's not, is that real? Like, is that a real stat? That's like, I can't even comprehend like how
Well,
good
and
of a shooter you have to be.
she's also doing that in 3 quarters most of the time. She's not having to finish out games normally. Anomalies obviously exist in the UConn schedule, but most teams that UConn has played, they've kind of rocked the socks off of them. I think we just saw them beat the living crap out of someone literally right before the draft lottery. I'm blanking on who it was. Oh, Utah. Those poor Utes, man. But yeah, they were beating the crap out of them, and AZ didn't step on the floor in the 4th quarter. And so that's not unique situation when you're a lights out shooter in the way that AZ is, and you're playing on a team as stacked and good as UConn is. So she's doing that with all of that talent surrounding her. Just think of what she could do somewhere where she's going to have the ball in her hands a little bit more of the time.
Yeah, and there's that obvious question though, right? Like, okay, AZ is a great player. Let's say she has a fantastic rest of the year, is able to separate herself from Awa and from everybody else, goes on another incredible tournament run, and they win the national championship, and she's most outstanding player, whatever. You have Paige, you have Arike, and that's 3 guards. You really can only play 2 guards at a time, unless you want to go super small. And so then that leads to the inevitable question of, okay, well, what are they going to do? Obviously, you're going to keep Paige, right? So what is the situation with Arike? And that is, that's where the whole change thing comes into play, because new coach, potentially maybe a new philosophy. I don't know. Certainly going to be a lot of new players because of the CBA. If there's even a new season, like, there's a lot of newness going on right now. And so if they do say, hey, we got our sights set on AZ, let's see what we can do with the Arike. Maybe you can do that to get in the top 5, back in the top 5. Maybe you can do that to draft AZ and go trade for Angel Reese, or do, any other number of things. But I think right now I'm leaning Awa, but we got to let the process play out a little bit. But like you said, I think you could talk about any of these players in the top 5, even Flaugier. Now, granted, I think, she's probably in that next level below Awa, and maybe AZ, maybe Betts too. But there's a really good case to be made for like 4 or 5 or 6 players. Olivia Miles, we haven't even mentioned her yet. Like, you can
Ben
talk
is
me
going to
into
be
any of those
so
players
upset with
involved.
us for not mentioning Olivia Miles until right now. Ben, please don't hate us.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get an email tomorrow morning.
I don't think I've ever gotten one of those from Ben, and I would like to keep it that way.
I can already, actually, my phone is buzzing already.
Oh
I
man.
don't have to go to work tomorrow. All right.
Oh, thank
Or
goodness.
the next day, or ever again.
I think Classic Sing Lover asked a great question in the chat, though. Are shooters or bigs easier to get? And I always think back to the Nelissa Smith comment where she's talking about playing against Asia, playing against Fee, playing against NECA, playing against all of these ridiculously talented fours that are just, they're hard to compete with. And when you're trying to play a true center, it is more difficult to game plan versus a team like the Aces, even like the Mercury with Alyssa Thomas playing at the 5 so frequently. Like, it does become very difficult to game plan for those situations. And I think that bigs are not necessarily scarce, but they are harder to tie down for long periods of time and keep them in good situations. And so I think you are better off to draft a big, in my opinion, in this situation. I do think Bobby is right. You have to just draft the most talented player, and if that's AZ Fudd at the end of the season, then that's AZ Fudd, and they should absolutely 100% go out and get AZ Fudd. But if Awa Fam is going to fit better and be the better player, then I think Awa Fam is probably the pick over Lauren Betts if I were to guess right now today as of November 23rd. But so much to change. We still got Thanksgiving to go, and the draft isn't even till March, you guys. So a lot's Actually, April. We're time traveling because the championship gonna be played right up here in Phoenix. You gotta come, Bobby. And so
Oh, it's going to
you
be out
might
there
get.
this year?
Yeah, it's gonna be
All
so
right.
fun.
You're going to get that one-on-one with AZ.
Boots on the ground. Future number one pick, AZ Fudd.
We all silly like the mayor.